The night my mother announced what she had decided to do with the rest of my life, I was holding a secret in my phone that none of them knew about. 3 weeks from freedom. 3 weeks from a one-way ticket to a country where nobody expected me to be anyone's unpaid servant. My father raised a glass to my brother's 5th baby. My mother beamed around the table and said, "Celia will be taking a year off from the hospital to help with the children. She doesn't have a real life anyway." She smiled when she said it. Everyone kept passing the mashed potatoes like my future was a side dish someone had already served. And then, I pulled out my phone. The room froze. What I showed them that night, and what happened after, is something I still think about every single day. Welcome back to Tranquil Drama Stories, where quiet daughters finally speak the truths their families have been pretending not to hear. If you've ever been the one everyone leans on and no one truly sees, this story was written for you. Drop a comment telling me where you're listening from, and be sure to subscribe, because the end of this one is going to change the way you think about family. Now let me take you back about 3 months before that dinner, so you can see exactly what my family thought I was for. My name is Celia Hartman. I'm 34 years old, and I keep newborn babies alive for a living. I work in the neonatal intensive care unit at Rochester General, and I am very good at my job. In my family, being very good at something doesn't mean you get respected for it. It means you get used for it. A Sunday at my parents' house in the suburbs of Rochester went something like this. I would drive 20 minutes from my apartment in Fairport with a casserole dish on the passenger seat because my mother had called on Thursday and said, "You'll do the scalloped potatoes. Yours are always so perfect." I would peel at the sink while my sister-in-law Becca rested her eyes on the couch. I would set the table. I would change the batteries in the smoke detector because my father mentioned it twice without looking at me, which in Hartman language is a work order. I would keep one eye on Eli, who was 4, and one eye on Maya, who was 2, while their parents scrolled through their phones, and my mother gave my Aunt Jeanette the full tour of my brother Tom's promotion at the medical supply warehouse. Tom got a toast. Becca got sympathy for how exhausted she looked. I got asked whether I had checked that leaky faucet under the bathroom sink yet. I want to be clear about something. I was not sulking in the corner. I laughed at the jokes. I cut the pie. I love those children so deeply it embarrasses me. But somewhere between the dishes and the diaper, I ended up changing. I understood my role the way you understand weather. I was the appliance of that house. Reliable. Plugged in. Never consulted. That particular Sunday, we were clearing plates when my mother looked around and asked if anyone knew where the gravy boat lid had gone, and 4 adults turned to me at the same time like I was the lost and found. It was almost funny. Then everyone collected their coats and my mother packed leftovers for Tom's family, for Aunt Jeanette, for the neighbor down the street. There was no plate for me. Nobody had noticed I had never sat down to eat. I noticed that they didn't notice. I always noticed. To understand how I got that role, you have to meet my grandmother Rose. When I was 27, her heart began to fail, slow and merciless. The family held a meeting at my parents' kitchen table that lasted exactly 11 minutes. Tom had 2 babies and a mortgage. My mother said her back was simply too bad. My father said whatever my mother said. And then every face turned to me with the same warm, terrible certainty. My mother spoke the sentence that would run my life for the next 4 years. "You're the nurse, sweetheart." So I became the nurse. 4 years of evenings and weekends in Grandma Rose's little house on Willow Lane. Pill organizers, sponge baths, 2 ambulance rides at $3 in the morning. One Christmas Eve spent in an emergency room corridor holding her hand while my family texted asking if I could still handle the ham for dinner. I was working full shifts in the NICU, and then driving to Willow Lane to do a second unpaid shift every night. My mother handled what she called logistics, which meant phone calls, which meant instructions, which meant me. Grandma Rose died 3 years ago at 89, with her hand in mine. At the funeral, the pastor stood up and praised my mother's devotion to family care. My mother dabbed her eyes and accepted every word. I stood in the second row in the good shoes Rose had bought me, and I learned something about how credit travels in my family. It flows uphill. Here is what I will tell you now because it matters later. Rose left me something. Not money. The little she had went into house repairs years before. Something else entirely. I will get to it. I promise, because it is the reason there was a folder on my phone at all. After Rose died, the family found me a new job without posting it. Tom and Becca lived 10 minutes from me with 4 kids and a schedule held together by dental floss. I became the floss. Fever at midnight? Call Aunt Celia. She's a nurse. Becca stuck at the dentist? Aunt Celia can pick up Lucas from practice. Anniversary weekend? Aunt Celia will take all 4. She's so wonderful with them. And here's the complicated part, the part that kept the whole machine running. I genuinely loved those children. Lucas, 9, who narrated his own video games like a sports broadcaster. Eli, 4, who hugged with his entire body in a running start. Maya, 2, a tiny blonde hurricane. And Alice. Alice was 7, and she was mine in some quiet way I can't explain biologically. She was the only person in that family who ever asked me questions about me. What do you like, Aunt Celia? What's your favorite color in the whole world? Do nurses ever get scared? I would have walked into traffic for that child. And everybody knew it. And that was exactly the problem. Love is a very effective rope to tie someone with. They will hold the knot for you. I had tried boundaries before. 2 years ago, I said no more overnight babysitting on weeknights because I was working 12-hour shifts. That commitment lasted until the next stomach flu swept through the house. When I held the line anyway, I didn't get an argument. I got a sigh and a look, and then my mother on the phone saying I had become difficult, and then 3 weeks of being lovingly punished with silence until I patched things up by hosting Easter. I thought I understood the arithmetic of my family by then. I thought I knew every way they could spend me. I didn't. They were about to invent a whole new currency. Let me show you the 2 halves of my life. Back to back. One Tuesday in October, at 4:00 in the morning, I was standing over an incubator with a baby girl born at 26 weeks. 1 pound, 15 ounces. A human being smaller than a loaf of bread. Her oxygen saturation dipped, and the room got very quiet and very fast at the same time. For about 90 seconds, my hands and my training were the only wall between that child and the dark. We got her back. Her father, a large man in a paper isolation gown, cried into my shoulder like a child himself. Her mother gripped my wrist and said, "You are an angel. Do you know that? Does your family know what you do?" I smiled and said something modest. 12 hours later, I was at my parents' house because my mother needed help moving the good china before the holidays. When I finished, I mentioned I was exhausted and needed to head home. My mother waved a dish towel at me, cheerful as a church hymn, and said, "Oh, stay and do the pots, honey. It's not like you have anything to rush home to." I stood there with my hands in cooling gray water and did the math that nobody else in that kitchen ever did. Strangers in a hospital corridor thought I was a miracle. The woman who raised me thought I was a free hour with legs. That is the thing about being useful. Useful is invisible. A lamp is useful. Nobody asks the lamp about its day. I dried the pots. I drove home. I sat in my car in the dark outside my apartment building for a long time. 3 weeks later, the group chat exploded. Everything I am about to tell you began. It was a Tuesday in the middle of November when my phone lit up on the break room table like a slot machine. The Hartman family group chat. 31 messages in 4 minutes. At the top of the thread was an ultrasound photo. Gray and grainy and unmistakable. Under it, my brother Tom had typed, "Round 5 baby," with about a dozen exclamation points. Becca followed with heart emojis and a post she had copied from her social media page. God said one more. Aunt Jeanette sent flowers and praying hands. My father sent a thumbs up, which for Raymond Hartman is practically a love sonnet. I stood there in my scrubs, my coffee going cold, and I felt the real, honest thing first, before anything else. Gladness. I love babies. I have spent 11 years learning how to keep the smallest ones breathing. A new niece or nephew is not a tragedy to me. Tom sounded so happy, and I typed my congratulations with all my heart. I want that on the record. Whatever you think of me by the end of this, know that I loved that baby before anyone had measured me for a cage. I had just slid the phone into my pocket when it buzzed again. Not the group chat this time. A private call. My mother. That alone was unusual. My mother communicates by summons, usually routed through whoever she is standing next to. Her voice had a polished shine on it I had not heard in years, the sound she gets around weddings and funerals, occasions where she gets to orchestrate. "Isn't it just wonderful?" she said, and before I could answer, she lowered her voice like we were co-conspirators. "We need to discuss the plan, sweetheart." I remember looking at my own reflection in the break room window. "Plan?" Nobody had invited me to any meeting with a plan in it. I said, "What plan, Mom?" She laughed, light as frosting, and said we would talk on Sunday. Then she hung up. I stood there with a feeling in my stomach I could not name yet. My body knew before I did. Sunday came, and I discovered what that shine in her voice was made of. My mother laid it out at her kitchen counter while she frosted a sheet cake, casual as a weather report. Becca would be overwhelmed by summer with a newborn and 4 kids. "Daycare for that crowd cost more than Tom brought home in a month," she said. Which was true. I agreed, which was my first mistake, because agreement in my family is a signature on a contract. Then she reached the heart of it. "So we have been thinking you could go part-time at the hospital, or step away for a while entirely. Honestly, that is cleaner. Children need consistency." She smoothed the frosting flat. "Family takes care of family." I set down my coffee and I said it plainly and calmly. "The way you state your name in a courtroom. No, Mom, I have a career. I love what I do. I am not quitting to become a nanny. And here is the part I need you to understand. Because everything that follows grows out of this moment." My mother did not argue with me. Arguing would have meant she had actually heard me. She just smiled at the cake, tapped the spatula twice on the bowl, and said, "Well, we will sort out the details later." Like I had raised a minor concern about parking. My father wandered in, took a swipe of frosting, and said, "Your mother has it all worked out." With genuine admiration, the way other men say my wife restores antique furniture. I drove home with my hands tight on the wheel, replaying it. I had said no, clearly in plain English, and it had passed through her like wind through a screen door. What scared me was not that she had ignored it. It was how relaxed she had been. My mother is never relaxed unless she is already certain she has won. I could not figure out where the certainty was coming from. I found out soon enough. The first piece of evidence arrived 10 days later in the middle of a shift. My phone buzzed with a number I did not recognize. When I stepped into the hallway to answer, a pleasant voice said, "Miss Hartman, this is the front office at Westbrook Elementary. Lucas is running a fever, and we could not reach his mom or dad. You are listed as his emergency contact." I said, "His what?" The woman repeated it. "Patient as you please. Secondary emergency contact, right after the parents." Becca had listed me that fall. Nobody had asked me. Nobody had even informed me. It takes nothing to do that. A parent writes a name and a phone number on a form. No signature required from the person being volunteered. No permission slip for the aunt. I traded my lunch break, drove to the school, and collected a pink-cheeked Lucas who felt terrible and looked worse. I got him settled at his house with medicine and cartoons because none of this was his fault. While I was hanging his backpack on the hook, a folded sheet of paper fell out of the front pocket. It was a printed schedule made on a computer, with clip art suns decorating the corners. Across the top, in cheerful purple letters, it said, "Aunt Celia Days. Tuesdays, Thursdays, alternating weekends." My name blocked out in a calendar grid like a shift worker's roster. Weeks and weeks of me, printed and laminated with a magnet on the back. I stood in my brother's hallway holding that schedule, and I felt the floor of something give way beneath me. Then I checked the date printed small in the bottom corner the day the file was created. October. My mother had not called me about the plan until the 3rd week of November. They had printed my life a month before they mentioned it to me. The second piece of evidence found me in the cereal aisle. It was early December by then, and I was pushing a cart through the grocery store after a shift when Aunt Jeanette came around the end cap and lit up like a porch light. She hugged me hard, rocked me side to side, and said right into my ear, "We are all just so proud of you." I asked what for, which was honest. Jeanette pulled back and beamed. "Linda told everyone at church, you are taking the year off for the new baby, a full year for family." Her eyes went shiny. You are a saint, honey. Pastor Michael said your name from the pulpit. From the pulpit. I stood there between the oatmeal and the granola bars while my aunt squeezed my hands. And I did not correct her. I want to be honest with you about why. Because standing in that aisle, I could already hear exactly how the correction would travel. Not as Linda was mistaken. No, it would travel as Celia backed out. That week, 2 more people stopped me. A woman from the church flower committee at the gas station. Our old neighbor at the pharmacy. Both glowing. Both blessing me. Both congratulating me on a decision I had never made. My mother had gone out ahead of me into every room I might ever stand in and told my story first. So I called her. I kept my voice level and I said, "Mom, you cannot tell people I am quitting my job. I told you no." And my mother said, warm as a heating pad, "Oh honey, I was just proud of you." Then, softer, with a little laugh that carried no humor in it, "You will see. It will all feel natural once the baby comes." I hung up and sat very still. My mother had built me a cage out of compliments, and she was not finished building. The following Wednesday, my landlord called me. Stanley owns my building and about half the bowling trophies in Fairport. He bowls Tuesdays with a league that includes, among other retired gentlemen, my father. Stanley's voice was all sunshine. "Celia, your dad mentioned you would be moving home in the spring, helping with the new grandbaby. Wanted to talk timing on the lease, whether you want it out early. Awfully sweet of you, hun. They don't make daughters like that anymore." I stood in my kitchen and looked at my own reflection in the dark window. I heard myself say calmly that nothing was decided, and I would call him back. Then I drove to my parents' house. 15 minutes, most of it spent breathing on purpose. I found my father in the garage with the radio on, oiling something that did not need oil. I asked him quietly if he had really discussed ending my lease with my landlord before anyone had asked me a single question. My father, my sweet, conflict-proof father, rubbed the back of his neck and looked at the workbench and said, "Well, your mother said it was decided." That sentence sat between us like a dropped wrench. Not we decided. Not even she decided. It was decided. Weather, gravity, an act of God. I looked at this man who taught me to drive, who I have watched stand up out of his chair maybe twice in my entire life, and I understood that he was never going to be the one to hand me my own future back. He was just the man who painted whatever room my mother pointed at. "Dad," I said, "I am not moving into the basement." He nodded slowly, the way you nod at a child who says she will be president someday. That nod did more damage than a fist could have. Meanwhile, the price tag for all those family rescues was landing on my actual career. Between the school pickup for Lucas and the night of Eli's febrile seizure, I had swapped 2 shifts in 3 weeks. December in a NICU is not a month with slack in it. My charge nurse, Marisol, caught me by the medication station, arms crossed. Being caught by Marisol is like being caught by good weather. You don't feel it until she is serious. "Cel, you know I love you." Nursing office flagged the shift swaps. She lowered her voice. "The education track position posts in the spring. You are the obvious pick. But if you keep bleeding shifts every time your family stubs a toe, somebody with worse hands and better attendance gets that spot." I started to explain and she held up one hand. "Not unkind. I know it's not your fault. It is never your fault. And it is always you." Then she said the sentence I have thought about 100 times since. "They are spending your career like it's their gift card." I went back to my pod and stood over an incubator, watching a 2-pound boy breathe up and down, machine steady. I thought about gift cards, about how there is a number on them, and everyone swipes like there isn't. And one day the card just declines, and everyone acts shocked. 11 years I had built this. Charge nurses requested me by name. Terrified parents asked for me specifically, and my family was carving it up into Tuesdays and Thursdays with clip art suns in the corners. If you are still with me, this is where you belong, because what I am about to share the moment everything shifted is the reason this story exists. Before we get there, make sure you are subscribed to Tranquil Drama Stories and hit that like button. This kind of quiet courage is exactly what this channel celebrates. Here is what Grandma Rose left me, the last truly clear night she had. About a month before the end, she sent me to her dresser for the tin where she kept buttons and dead batteries. She made me dig out a wristwatch. Small face. Leather band gone soft as a dollar bill. It ran 4 minutes slow. Always had. She pressed it into my palm and folded my fingers over it with both her hands, which took her some effort by then. And she told me a story I had never heard in 31 years. That once, long before any of us, she had been accepted to an art program in Chicago. 19 years old, with a portfolio full of birds she had drawn from the kitchen window. She never went. Her mother needed her. Then her brothers needed her. Then a husband. Then babies. Then the babies' babies. I kept waiting for somebody to tell me it was my turn, she said. Her voice was not bitter. That was the worst part. It was just tired and certain, like a road sign. Nobody ever did, Celia. Nobody hands a woman her turn. You take it. Then she tapped the watch with one knuckle and said she kept it slow on purpose so every time she checked it she would remember. Time does not wait politely. I wore that watch to her funeral, 4 minutes slow, while the pastor praised my mother. I was wearing it in the supply room on another night that changed everything. 10 months earlier, I had worked the worst shift of my career. We lost a 24-weeker at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I cried in the supply closet. Then I came home to find my mother had left a voicemail, asking me to make 3 dozen deviled eggs for a church event, since you're off Thursday. Something in me went very still that night. Not broken. Focused. I sat down, still in my coat, and filled out an application I had bookmarked for a year but never let myself finish. A neonatal resuscitation training program attached to Cork University Hospital in Ireland. A 2-year contract teaching nurses and midwives the thing I do best in the world, keeping impossibly small people alive. I had learned about it at a conference in Cincinnati from a silver-haired Irish doctor named Dr. O'Brien, who watched me run a simulation and said, "You teach with your hands. Have you thought about doing this on purpose?" I did 2 video interviews that autumn on my days off, in a blazer on top and pajama pants below. By November, I was a finalist. Final decisions were promised by December. The only living soul who knew was Marisol, who kept my secret like a vault and checked in using code. Any weather from the coast? So while my mother frosted her certainty onto a sheet cake, I had a maybe growing across an ocean. A maybe, that's all. But some nights, a maybe is the only thing between a woman and the basement. The Friday night after that brutal conversation with my father in the garage, I finished my shift, sat in my car in the parking garage, and let my forehead rest on the steering wheel for 1 minute exactly. Then my phone buzzed against the cup holder. Not the group chat. Not my mother. The subject line began with the exact phrase I had been silently praying toward for 10 months. Offer of appointment. I did not open it in the car. I had waited 10 months, and some things you do not unwrap under a parking garage light. I walked back into the hospital, badged into the NICU supply room, and stood between the shelves of preemie diapers and saline flushes in the one place on earth where I have always known exactly who I am. Then, I opened the email. Dear Ms. Hartman, on behalf of the program, I am delighted to offer you appointment as neonatal resuscitation training specialist at Cork University Hospital. A 2-year contract, a real salary in euros, with a relocation allowance, and a settling-in stipend for the first month. The hospital would sponsor my work permit. Nurses with my specialization are on Ireland's critical skills list, a formal way of saying they need us faster than they can grow us. My registration paperwork had been filed that autumn and was already in process. Start date, March 9th, which meant flying by March 1st, which meant 12 weeks to dismantle an old life and build a new one. I read it 3 times. My hands were shaking so hard the shelf of diapers blurred, and I laughed at that. 11 years of steady hands in emergencies, trembling now like a first-year student. Then I did something I had not planned. I made a folder on my phone just for this. The offer letter. The contract waiting to be signed. The airline page with the one-way flight to Shannon already sitting in the cart. And when my thumb hovered over the box asking me to name the folder, I did not type Ireland, or Cork, or New Life. I typed 4 capital letters. Rose. I looked at her watch. Then I opened the folder called Rose and I signed the contract with my thumb, and I bought the one-way ticket. and I put the phone in my pocket and went back to work. My hands were still shaking. I signed anyway. That is the whole secret, if you want it. You do not wait for steady, you sign shaking. I meant to tell them that week. I had the offer letter printed and folded in my purse. I rehearsed the speech for 3 days in the shower, in the car, at red lights. Just a simple paragraph. I have been offered a position overseas. I am accepting it. My answer about the nanny plan is no, and it will remain no. Friday dinner at my parents' house. I got there early. I helped with nothing on purpose, which took genuine effort. And the moment arrived, plates cleared. My father reaching for the newspaper. My mother pouring decaf. Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something about next year. My mother set down the coffee pot and looked at me. I swear some animal part of her already smelled it. And right then, the house phone rang. Becca, shrieking. Eli had spiked a fever and had a seizure, a short one on the kitchen floor. Everything after that was coats and headlights. I was at their place in 10 minutes because febrile seizures are terrifying and almost always harmless. And someone in that hallway needed to be the person who knew that. I checked him over. I talked Becca down from the ceiling. I rode along to urgent care just in case. It was midnight when we got back. Eli was asleep on my shoulder, heavy as a sandbag. And in Tom's kitchen, my mother looked around at the aftermath and said to the room in the voice of a closing argument, "You see, this is exactly why the plan makes sense. Some of us have actual families, Celia. Family takes care of family." She said it for the 3rd time that month. I drove home at 1:00 in the morning with my speech still folded up inside me, unsaid. The Saturday after that, my mother called and said Sunday dinner would be special. A family meeting. She used the word announcement with a little sparkle in her voice. She wanted everyone there, Tom, Becca, the kids, Aunt Jeanette. Big news, she said. I knew exactly what the news was going to be. I said I would be there. I said it very calmly. Because I had news of my own now. The contract was signed. The ticket was booked. The one-way flight to Shannon was confirmed for March 1st. I had not told a single soul in my family. I wore the watch. The slow one, 4 minutes behind. Just like Rose had kept it. Sunday dinner. My mother had set the table with the good plates, which was the first warning sign. The good plates only come out for announcements and funerals. Tom and Becca and the kids arrived with chaos. Lucas ran straight to me with his latest video game score. Alice wrapped herself around my leg and whispered, "I made you a card, Aunt Celia. It has a bird on it." The bird thing she had remembered from months ago when I told her Rose used to draw birds. That child. That child. We ate. My mother's roast chicken, my scalloped potatoes. I ate this time. Slowly, purposefully. I was storing energy like a runner before a race. When the plates were cleared and the kids had been dispatched to the living room with a movie, my mother stood up. She tapped her wine glass with her fork. Beaming. We have some wonderful news to share as a family. Then she looked directly at me with the warmest smile I have ever seen her produce. Celia has decided to step back from the hospital to help Tom and Becca with the new baby full-time. She will be moving back home with us, and we could not be more proud of her generous heart. Silence. Then applause. Aunt Jeanette clapped. My father nodded, satisfied. Tom looked relieved. Becca wiped at her eye, and I stood up. "Mom," I said, and my voice was steadier than my hands. I never agreed to that. The room shifted. Someone's fork scraped a plate. My mother's smile flickered but held. "Honey, we discussed this. It's decided." "No," I said. "You decided. You printed a schedule before you ever spoke to me. You told the church. You told my landlord. None of that was a discussion." I pulled my phone from my pocket. And none of it matters now. I opened the folder. Rose, I held up the screen. I have been offered a position at Cork University Hospital in Ireland. Neonatal resuscitation training. A 2-year contract. My flight leaves March 1st. I signed the paperwork 3 weeks ago. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I have ever heard. My mother's face went through 3 expressions in about 2 seconds. Disbelief, then something harder, then something I had never seen before, a flicker of genuine fear. Not fear for me, Fear that she had lost control of the one thing she had always been able to count on. Aunt Jeanette said, quietly, Ireland? Tom stared at his plate. Becca looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time in 10 years, and my father looked up from his hands. For one suspended moment, I saw something move behind his eyes. Regret, maybe, or recognition. He did not speak. He never would. But in that moment, I think he finally understood exactly what he had helped build. My mother found her voice. You can't just leave. We need you. The children need you. The children have parents, I said. I love them with everything I have, but I am not their mother. I am not anyone's built-in nanny, and I am not staying. Lucas appeared in the doorway. He must have heard the raised voices. Alice slipped in behind him, her card still clutched in her hand. She looked at my face, then at my mother's, and her lip trembled. I knelt down. Alice, sweetheart, I am going on an adventure. To a country called Ireland. It is very far away, but I will call you every week. I promise. Her small face crumpled and then steadied in the way children do when they are being braver than adults. Will there be birds there? So many birds, I said. I will draw them for you. I stood up. I looked around that dining room at my mother's frozen fury, at my father's silence, at Tom's confusion, at Aunt Jeanette's open mouth. I fly out March 1st, I said. If anyone wants to say goodbye before then, you know where I live. At least until Stanley tears up my lease. Nobody spoke. I picked up my coat. I walked to the front door. And just before I stepped outside, Alice ran across the room and pressed her card into my hand. A crayon bird, blue and slightly lopsided. The most beautiful thing I have ever seen. I left. I got in my car. I drove home to my apartment, packed a box that night and cried for the first time in 3 years. Not from sadness, from the sheer, overwhelming weight of finally being free. I have been in Ireland for 2 years now. I teach nurses and midwives how to keep impossibly small humans breathing. I live in a cottage with yellow shutters near the coast. I walk to the harbor on my days off and watch the fishing boats come in. I have friends who know nothing about my family except the parts I choose to share. Tom calls sometimes. Alice writes me letters in her careful second-grade handwriting. And every letter has a bird on it. My mother has not spoken to me since that dinner. My father sent one text, safe flight, and nothing since. I have made peace with that. Some silences are not abandonment. Some silences are the sound of you finally choosing yourself. I still wear the watch. 4 minutes slow. Every time I glance at it, I hear Rose's voice in the back of my mind. Time doesn't wait politely. She was right. Nobody hands you your turn. You take it. And sometimes, you take it with shaking hands. If this story moved you, please like this video and subscribe to Tranquil Drama Stories. We share new stories every day about family, resilience, and the quiet courage it takes to reclaim your own life.